Excellent. Morning, everybody. So thank you for taking the time to join us this morning on what is, well, certainly for me, a fairly gloomy Tuesday morning, albeit dry, certainly better than it has been over the last couple of days. Just want to do a couple of bits of kind of housekeeping and some introductions. So as I referenced at the start, for those that were already on the call, we are recording today's session. We do share the recordings out via the YouTube page afterwards. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to jump in with them. You're more than, we're more than happy for you to come off mute and shout the questions out if you'd like to. Obviously, note anything that is, said out loud will be included in the recordings. If you're more comfortable typing it into the chat window, then that's absolutely fine. And myself or someone in the team will either answer it if we can, or I'll find a relevant point just to interrupt Denim and ask that question directly. There is some time for Q&A at the end, but don't feel you need to wait for that section if you've got something that you'd like to raise kind of as we're running through. Just in terms of some quick introductions, so for those I haven't met before, and there are some familiar names on the call, my name's Guy. I'm commercial head of practice for modern work and security. So I look after that technical area alongside SharePoint security, obviously modern work with Denim. My focus is on supporting our commercial part of the organisation in driving forward opportunity within this space. I've been at Transparity nearly 4.5 years, which makes me almost part of the furniture here. Delivering most of the content today, you'll be pleased to know it's not me. So Denim, who's our lead pre-sales architect for Modern Workplace, will be running through the technical detail. So I will hand over to Denim in a couple of minutes' time and let him start getting through some of the detail. I say obviously shout out Q&A, whenever you've got something, feel free to raise it. I'm more than happy to wait until the end, but do leverage Denim and his technical capabilities while you've got him. Denim, do you want to just jump on to the next slide for me? Perfect. So just a quick bit of background on Transparity for those that are new. We are coming up 9 years old. We are a pure play Microsoft Cloud partner, so we don't do anything else. We sit pretty much at the top of the tree in terms of Microsoft accreditations. So we hold now the 6 partner designations, which replace the old kind of silver and gold accreditations that have existed for many, many years. These are now being based around capability and capability of delivery, rather than just some passing exams and hitting revenue targets, as a lot of them were previously set. So we're in a very unique position to hold all of those. We also hold 12 advanced specializations, which is that list very, very small on the right hand side. Again, those are based around partners showcasing what they have delivered. So much more about what you have put out to customers using the Microsoft technologies, rather than just saying what you can and can't do. Not necessarily relevant for today's conversation, but we are also Azure Expert MSP, so we hold that top level Azure accreditation, one of only a handful in the UK, certainly, to hold that and the 6 partner designations. And also from a security perspective, we sit within MISA's, so Microsoft Intelligent Security Association, which is an invite-only group, which we were invited into about 2 years ago. Off the back of having built a security operations center offering based purely around Microsoft. So, core for us is everything Microsoft. There are no competing products. There's no GCP. There's no AWS, and there never will be. We are very fortunate to be able to build out a significant organization with a lot of capability around the Microsoft stack, and I think that gives us, quite rightly, the ability to use the title of specialist. So it's not something that we plan to dilute, but we work across all of the core Microsoft areas, from modern work that we're talking today, obviously, through to application innovation and data and AI, some of the newer parts of that portfolio. But really, there is pretty much everything in our ecosystem, but obviously today focusing on the Intune Suite within modern work. Next slide, please. Denim. So won't run through this in a load of detail, but just a high level agenda of some of the slides that Denim's going to run through. And obviously, to the question raised earlier, the licensing is in there, albeit right at the end. Denim's going to run through obviously some of the capability that you can see how some of this works. So feel free to raise questions as we go. But yeah, hopefully it'll be an informative session. And without that, Denim, I will hand over to you.
Thanks, Guy. Thanks everyone for joining this morning. Nice to meet you all virtually. Hopefully I'll get to meet you all in future calls in person going forward. So the high level agenda, we'll just start there with the Intune Suite overview, and really just to give a bit of background on where organizations are today, where do we see sort of gaps in solutions? One of the big things that people are shifting to is being the hybrid environment, but it being available all the time to all users, from any device, really putting a lot of strain and pressure on the IT teams, especially when people are accessing multiple apps, on-premise apps, obviously the 365 services. It can be a bit of a headache for IT teams to manage. The other thing is to balance that productivity for the users. Obviously, with managing, we're trying to secure devices as well, but we don't want to hamper users' productivity, and that's where you got to strike that balance between locking down your configurations and making sure people can do their jobs. We're also seeing a pretty large year-on-year increase in sophisticated attacks. So on that security side of things, we're seeing large hacking groups, including nation states, getting involved and just making everybody's lives a lot more difficult in the security world. And obviously Intune and endpoint management plays a big part in that whole story. Making sure that you're protecting all of your endpoints is a critical piece to that. These trends will all sort of come together, and people are asking for more flexibility, but they're also under that much more sort of security pressure. So being able to deliver a coherent solution that's easy to manage is probably at the top of everyone's agenda at the moment. So endpoint manager is sort of going through a big phase of change at the moment. You probably didn't see a lot of updates from Ignite if you were following it, because obviously AI and Copilot took over all the headlines. But in the background, there've been a lot of advancements in Intune. Specifically, the Intune Suite is bringing a lot of functionality to it. It is an addition to Intune, but it will help with some of these sort of outliers here. So people coming in with separate mobile and desktop management capabilities, endpoint security integration with Defender, helping you accelerate your cloud sort of adoption process and transformation, and obviously that analytics and AI piece. There's a lot of things out there, even in Intune, where Copilot will start coming into helping everybody with making the large language models available to admins within the portals, and building out policies just from writing free text. So a lot of advancements already in the last 12 months, but in the next 12 months, I'm expecting a lot more from Microsoft. Every time we have an update call with them, there's so much more coming out in the pipeline. I'll give you a bit of a flavor of it today, but it's probably just the tip of the iceberg, that there will be a lot more over the next 12 months, as I say. So the current situation then with Intune is you're probably using it already for device management at some level. You may or may not be doing device build and provisioning with Autopilot, but you're probably finding that you're needing to purchase additional tools to sit alongside Intune to do some of those sort of scenario gaps, such as patch management, remote help. You've got TeamViewer, Beyond Trust, various different products that you're having to pay for just to fill those gaps that Intune currently has.
Denon, that's a really good. Sorry to interrupt you immediately, but I remembered I created a poll just around what people might be using, which I should have probably launched 5 minutes ago. So I guess just quite a nice segue into some of the kind of tooling. So let me just kick this off. Should pop up on screen for everyone. I guess just be good to get a little bit of background of what people may or may not be using. Appreciate we could have probably put 50 options on here, so I've just kept it to some of the tooling that we see in our existing customers. So I'll just share that up on screen if you can take a minute just to pick one or a couple, because there may well be more than one in use there, then that would be great. So apologies, and interrupting you already.
It's all right, all good. No, this is where Intune Suite sort of tries to fill those gaps. I say try, it's relatively new in terms of its maturity against some of these other products, but hopefully after this you'll see that the integration with Entra and your single pane of glass, and that one solution to meet these needs is definitely the direction of travel, and it will probably get there by the time you end up going through the refresh cycles of some of these apps, and then just sort of doing your own sort of due diligence in terms of what you're currently using against what you get out of your licensing to make sure that you are maximizing your return on that investment. So there's a few sort of scene settings slides here, and imagine if you could simplify your IT processes, and it goes beyond just making common tasks sort of easier. It does a good job of streamlining the whole end-to-end support sort of model. If you've got all of your applications and your management in one central console, straight away that helps. It also helps give you that visibility and the data at your fingertips to be able to improve your overall support model. And it doesn't really matter about the device or who owns it. So much BYOD and shared devices and so many different scenarios now that it's a lot to manage, and having it all in one place will help increase that IT efficiency and reduce the cost overall if you start to add in time spent in different portals, licensing costs, and all of those sorts of things. So that vendor consolidation is really the key thing you want to sort of try and take away from this, and just have a think as to what could potentially you could replace with some of these functionalities. It's also going to improve that security posture, as we touched on earlier. I'm assuming everybody here is on a zero trust journey. It's definitely the direction of travel from a security play. So zero trust, we'll always verify, we'll always use least privilege, and we'll always assume breach. And this is where Entra and single sign-on into apps and conditional access all come into play, integrated with Defender to give you that full visibility across all of your devices, and your configuration of your devices as well. The final imagine point then is just around that user experience. The insights and the proactive remediations that you get from using Intune do go a long way for that user experience in terms of improvements. Giving people options of how they want to work in this modern world with local machines, bring your own devices, virtual cloud PCs, dev boxes, so many options now that people want to use. And we do see companies giving their users the choice, because ultimately they want the users to be as productive as possible. And if that means cloud PC for one user or mobile for another, then so be it, as long as we've got all of the management and wraparounds that we would need. There's a lot of updates to Mac management as well. A lot of it's come out of Ignite, if you've managed to catch any of that. So capability of Mac management in Intune is far greater now than it ever has been. We're almost at the point of sort of zero touch deployments as well, with single sign-on through to full sort of Defender integration and management with Intune. You probably don't necessarily need third-party Mac products anymore, such as Jamf or Kanji. Anything missing natively from Intune, you can script. So if you know how to script it, and if you've got Copilot to help you script it, you can pretty much do anything from Intune nowadays. So the solution to all those imagines and those sort of scenario gaps that we saw before is the Intune Suite. There's sort of 7 callouts here. The ones with asterisks are sort of future phases of coming out into release. But you start on the top left here with remote help. It's available now. It's that direct replacement for your traditional TeamViewer or Beyond Trust or whatever remote support tool you're using. It's integrated into Entra, so you've got that zero trust baked in. You can integrate it with conditional access policies, and we'll see a little bit more on it in a moment. Automated third-party app packaging. This is going to be a great tool for people who struggle with packaging apps in Intune, and also maybe people who are still stuck on SECM and need to get their apps across into Intune, but don't necessarily know where to start with that whole app packaging piece. The endpoint privilege management will give you sort of granular access to allow users to increase their privilege to run applications. So, not giving people admin passwords on devices anymore, not having to necessarily log in and have a support person do the install. You can set boundaries and policies to allow users to install their own software that you trust and you define. Advanced endpoint analytics, by Microsoft's own reckoning, the reporting in Intune is questionable, but they are making a lot of headway on it. And the advanced endpoint analytics is one of those features coming that will give you better insights on your device health and performance. It's a holistic view, and it will bring security signals in from telemetry, connections to Microsoft Graph, and security signals as well, and provide you support insights that will hopefully help you remediate issues before they even become a widespread issue. The cloud PKI is another great addition. It's not out yet. The preview is going to be in 2024, but I have seen it, and I saw somebody from Microsoft stand it up in about 10 minutes. So if you have on-premises certificate authorities, then migrating that to a cloud platform is so much simpler, and Microsoft take care of all of that underlying architecture for you. The tunnel for MAM is a sort of pseudo VPN product whereby if you have on-premise resources that you need to access from a mobile device, you can get a secure tunnel into those and get that sort of user experience that you would expect from accessing a cloud app. The final call out on there is just that advanced management solutions, and there's a few here, but the key points really are around reducing your cost and that multi-vendor overhead, increasing your security through having the best of suite of products rather than having multiple products that are best of breed, trying to get that all in one place. Improve the user experience by giving them the tools that they need to work from anywhere on any device, and move towards a more proactive support model. We have had customers sort of trying to take that as far as they possibly can, whereby all tickets are proactive, and your inbound support desk is reduced greatly because you're proactively seeking out those issues before they become widespread. So the next phase of this little presentation is to just deep dive quickly into some of the individual components. I do have demos. I'm just looking at the clock as well. I'm just conscious I want to keep a little bit of time back. So remote help. This is, if you've used TeamViewer or anything similar to that, then this will be fairly familiar to you. It's that full control session where you can provide support. It's cloud-based. You can access it directly from Intune. You can apply role-based access control to it. So, help desk operators can only maybe have read access, and then maybe second-line engineers can do full control. You can get full cloud role-based access control over that. You get device compliance warnings as well. So if you're working on a non-managed device, you can. And you'll get that notification through natively in the portal. So it's a real easy way of managing devices, especially if you're already managing your devices in Intune. It's right there at your fingertips for deploying scripts or apps, and also just launching that remote session. So I've got a demo here of just sort of how it works from a high level. You can see in the portal that you would launch that remote help app, sign in with your work or school account, and then generate a security code that you would share with the user that you're helping. They would also sign into their client, so you can both see each other signed in. They would enter their code into the app. That will then start the session. You see there, you get to view the screen or take full control and validate who the person connecting is. So you get that extra layer of security on it. Once you're connected, you've then got full control over that user's session, as you would expect. You can see there that that device isn't enrolled. It's a personal device, but you can still use that remote help as you would need to. There are sort of laser pointers and things like that to help guide users through making changes. And once it comes up, you've got that option here is to do a just-in-time UAC prompt. So rather than putting credentials in through the remote session that could be compromised, you can do that just-in-time UAC session that will allow you to run, in this case, PowerShell as administrator, just that one time, and it will obviously be logged in the remote help logs as well. This particular support session is just to install a Windows Media Player, and you can see that that's done there quite easily with PowerShell. You get a message to remind you to close the PowerShell prompt, and then you would close your remote help session as well. There is also unattended support options available. Currently, it's only available for Android devices. Reason being is it's quite a common scenario that you have sort of kiosk or shared Android devices out in customer sites. So being able to get access to those when there's potentially not a user in front of them is where that unattended access comes in. It is on the roadmap for remote help. It's quite a heavily requested feature, so expect it to come to Windows and other platforms later this year. But just to show you the unattended access on the Android side of things, if you go into the Android devices in Intune, you'd select your device that you're looking to manage from your list of devices. You can request control, at which point, if this is just a user standard device, you can hit request control. That will prompt the user on their device to accept that remote session that's incoming. As soon as they do that, you'll see that you can get access into the phone itself directly from the Intune portal, and then you have full control. Really, you can use hardware buttons along the top to toggle up the volume or the power button itself, and you can make any changes you need to through either typing or just sort of clicking and scrolling through the screen itself. Once you're finished, you can just leave that session from the top corner there. The user can also leave by clicking that X on the screen. The other option is to launch that unattended session. And so if we were to launch that here, you see you've got the option there to initiate that unattended control. And that's going to just call out to the device. There is a little delay, but it's a timeout in case there is somebody on that unattended device. And then once they're connected, obviously it's a black screen. This one's nobody's on it, but you can then wake it with the hardware buttons, and you can make any changes you want to. In this case, somebody logged a ticket to say that their Bluetooth printer wasn't working. Turns out Bluetooth's been turned off. So somebody just jumps on, quickly fixes that, which is a lot more streamlined than probably current processors today. Again, once you're done, you would just leave the session and leave the device as is, and nobody would know any different. The next one here is advanced endpoint analytics. There's only really two updates for advanced endpoint analytics analytics at the moment. It's one of the newer products in the suite. The first one is anomaly detection, where if I skip forward, you can see sort of app crashes or blue screen errors in the anomalies pane, and that's aggregated across devices as well. So you'd get insights if, for example, there was an update to systems on a Tuesday, and then all of a sudden the HR app starts crashing. You'd be able to correlate those much more quickly than you would through just sort of ad hoc support tickets. The other feature is that advanced timeline. So you can see a bit more detail as to when those events came in, when people logged in. You can verify if somebody says their device is blue screening, you can go in and actually see when it happened without even having to get onto the device. So a lot more will come in this space, but that's the first two options that are available today. Endpoint privilege management. And this is a real big one for those who have maybe staff out there who like to install their own apps. A bit of a battle of, do we give them an admin account? Do we make them local admins? Zero Trust says, no, you don't. Endpoint privilege management will fill that gap. You can build in approval processes for elevations, and you can set your own rules as to what apps can and can't be elevated. Those rules are based on file hash or certificate, and then future support for MFA and predefined templates are also coming as well. Just to see this in action, we do have here Notepad++. A user tries to open and run it as admin. They get the UAC prompt. If you've got Windows Lapse as well, they probably won't know the password. They try and run it themselves. Again, UAC's prompt. Finally, they remember that they need to run with elevated access, which is that EPM piece. We've set it to provide a business justification. You can set it to automatic. You can also set child processes to run elevated as well. So if you've got apps that always need to run as admin, you can set that through EPM. This one's just a standard business justification, and then you're allowed to install. And you can see that then lets the user go ahead and install that in an admin context without giving them admin access to the device, which stops potential attackers, getting admin credentials on the device itself and then getting system and traversing your network. So real powerful piece. Takes a bit of setting up in terms of the apps that you want to allow and setting up your rules, but you can hopefully see how that can help going forward. The Microsoft Tunnel for MAM. If you've got mobile app management policies already, you'll know that you can protect company data within the app itself. Traditionally, that's always been for cloud apps, so Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint. With Tunnel for MAM, you can use the Microsoft Tunnel VPN client from Intune on your Android or iOS devices to tunnel into on-premise applications as well. So it's all bound by the same sort of MAM policies. You'd create a configuration profile. You can block people from copying and pasting out data. The data is protected. You can put conditional access in front of it. But you can give your users that experience of being able to access things out and about on mobile devices without having to connect to VPNs or do anything from the user's perspective. Just to see that in action here on an Android phone, users accessing their email through MAM. Someone sent them a link to an on-premises file. They would then open that. The tunnel will automatically connect, which you see there, and then bring that into that enlightened app of Word, so you can access the on-premise resources on the mobile. Another sort of call out for this is if you've got multiple profiles, for example, on this iPad, a user's connected to an internal resource. As soon as they switch into their personal profile, it auto switches off that tunnel. So it's a really intelligent sort of tunneling approach that the user doesn't really need to do anything with. You just set it up on the back end. To call out two of the sort of the roadmap features in a bit more detail, and there is a link there to the roadmap itself. If you do go to that and do a search for Intune or filter by Intune, you'll see a lot more of the Intune in general updates coming within the roadmap, and there are quite a few Intune Suite ones on there, such as unattended support for Macs, I believe is on there, and with some sort of indicators of dates of when they might be released by Microsoft. So always worth checking out there. The first one to just call out is that enterprise app management. Mentioned earlier about moving your SECM into Intune, or maybe you've got a bunch of apps that you need to package for a device build process. Where do you start? In the future, this will be where you start. Microsoft are packaging up, I think, 750 apps by February is their aim for their release date. And the idea being that you have a curated catalog that you can select apps from. Microsoft do all the heavy lifting. They validate the binaries, they do the packaging, and you just go and select those apps from your catalog and push those directly into Intune with all of the parameters that you would need to package that app and deploy it out. You can also update apps as well. It's a bit of a big gap at the moment is third-party patch management, but with your app catalog, you'll be able to update third-party apps and sort of automate that supersedence model if you're familiar with that in Intune. The cloud certificate management is just the last one to touch on there as well. Then it's as I say, it's not available yet. The public preview is due next year, but it is likely to replace your on-premises certificate authorities if you're using them for Wi-Fi profiles or VPNs or applications that need a certificate. Maybe it's the last thing on your cloud journey to decommission and you don't really know where to start with it. You can deploy a cloud CA pretty quickly, stand that up, and then deploy the certificates through Intune, through your SCEP profiles. You have a cloud CRL list as well, so you can revoke certificates as you need to. All the functionality that you would have from your on-premises CA is going to be available in cloud management going forward.
Then just a question in the chat. Does the full pre-packaged App Store come under Intune Plan 1 or Suite?
So that is a Suite feature. Yeah. If you're in Plan 1, you have to do the supersedence yourself to do the third-party packaging and updates. So it is one, you'll see it on the table at the end as well of where that fits into the licensing. But yeah, it is part of the Suite.
Great, thank you.
And here we go. All of these Suite options can be purchased as add-ons, with the exception of the Tunnel for MAM. If you've got Plan 2, you'll get the Tunnel for MAM as well. But essentially, if you end up going for a couple of these, it quickly becomes cost-effective to switch to Intune Suite. Whilst you may not use 4 of them, maybe you're only using 2, it's probably the right play. The other thing on the licensing side of things is there are trials available within your tenants. Just a tip on the trials. There's an Intune Suite trial, but there's also individual trials. And if you use the individual trials first, then use the Intune Suite, that gives you sort of double bubble on trials. You can use the 90 days plus the 90 days for the Intune Suite. So you can extend your trial period for quite a good amount of time if you want to do any sort of playing around with these.
Perfect.
There's a bit of a whistle-stop tour, yeah. So apologies if I didn't cover anything that you wanted there. The time sort of run away, but we'll take questions in a moment and just hand back to Guy to close out.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate obviously a lot of content to try and get through quickly and efficiently. So we'll obviously come to the kind of Q&A piece in a minute. And obviously, thank you for the couple of questions that have come into the chat. I guess from a transparency perspective, in terms of some next steps, obviously there are a number of people using Intune. We've got a few saying they're using Intune Suite, which is great. I guess as a piece for us to put forward is obviously, as Denham's just referenced, there are trial licenses available of these. So kind of what we would like to put on the table is obviously conversation around a potential proof of concept around some of these tools. I think, as always, getting them into an environment and seeing how they work was obviously a great way to evaluate them. And from our perspective, what we're happy to support is a kind of an initial pre-sales workshop conversation with myself, the team, Denham, to actually start to scope that out. Obviously, the deployment itself is potentially a costed exercise depending on the effort involved, but more than happy to go through those conversations with individuals of how this may work, whether it's the right thing, actually, whether we can be more efficient with perhaps some of the licenses, etc., that you may already own. So that's the offer we'd like to put kind of onto the table. And if one I prepared earlier, if I just launch up the other poll on that one. I think I'm just going to catch up. There is a really kind of simple yes no poll question, if that's something that you'd like to pick up with us kind of offline. If you're a managed Transparity customer, then that will come back through your account manager, or if you haven't worked with us before, then somebody likely within our demand response within my team would follow that up. So thank you, Denham, for that. Obviously we've got a few minutes left. I don't know if there's any questions for anyone. Obviously feel free to come off mute and shout them out, or if you want to drop them in the chat, more than happy. And actually, Ben, sorry, I've just seen you raise another question of are the licenses needed per user or per admin user?
Yeah, so for your remote help, that's probably what that's referring to there, Ben, correct me if I'm wrong. It's perfect. Yeah, you need to license both, so the helper and the helpee would need to be licensed for Intune Suite, or the remote help add-on.
So technically, you could, if we only had one admin, say, and 100,000 users, we just need 2 licenses. Do you assign the license per user?
Yeah, you assign the license per user. So that would be a hell of a process to keep changing that one license.
Well, no, that's theoretically, but you could only have you could have 5 or 10, and you could just reassign them as per need, and rather than have to license like 1,000 users and all your admin staff, which seems excessive. Bear in mind, we're pretty skinned at the moment. Okay, thank you.
Technically, yeah, that would work. It's one of those that Microsoft will always say who's benefiting from the service would need to be licensed. So there is an argument there that they're benefiting as they've got the license. But yeah, that's certainly doable.
Hi, Denham. Alan here.
Hi there.
Hiya. This application packaging sounds interesting. You say 750. Have they published a library yet? And will there be a opportunity for businesses to say, "Oh, we'd like this one packaged, please, Microsoft"?
Yep. So they haven't given an official list. They have said it will be in parity with existing sort of solutions. So it will be common apps. They will work with you as well to curate your own store. So if you had line of business apps, there is options to raise tickets and have those added by Microsoft into your own catalog. So yeah, whether I've not seen anything official on that, but that's the line I got from Microsoft on the last call that I had with them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions from anybody? Either you've given all the answers, Denham, or you've just blown everyone's minds. Could be,
there's a lot to it,
or a mix of both.
There is a lot to it, and it's one of those that have a look at that vendor consolidation piece when you've got products up for renewal. Have a bit of sort of time in the bank that you can maybe evaluate some of these products ahead of that renewal date, so that you don't end up trying to deploy last minute and then, oh no, we're going to have to just renew for another year because we haven't tested it or we're not quite ready. And then the other thing is just watch out for the space. I think Intune Suite will continue to grow at pace, as do all the Microsoft products. But that functionality and that parity against competitors, especially, is going to just skyrocket in terms of development.
Brilliant. Thank you, Denim. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to be with us this morning. Obviously, if you've got any questions, obviously reach out to your Transparity contact afterwards. More than happy to support. And yeah, thanks for taking the time. Obviously, feel free to drop off, and look forward to speaking to you all soon.
Thank you.